Hey friend, welcome to the Halfway to Dead podcast. I'm your host, Jen Lovell. Listen, you and I have reached that age where we are done with the bullshit. We know that midlife is our chance to flip the script and experience life on our own terms. It's time to reconnect with our higher selves and reclaim our inner peace. Are you ready with an open heart and an open mind? Awesome, you're in the right place. Hop in and ride shotgun with me on this midlife spiritual journey. Hey friends. So if you're just tuning in for the first time, welcome. If you've been on this journey with me for a little while, thank you so much. No, really, I appreciate you guys. I know that lives are busy and there's a lot going on out in the world, especially right now. And so for you to take a little bit of time to listen to little old me and my podcast, it really does mean a lot. Okay, so thank you. Let's talk about today. So today I interviewed Keri Mangis. She's a current writer for Spirituality and Health magazine and a top 50 writer at Elephant Journal. Her first book, Embodying Soul, A Return to Wholeness, received all kinds of awards, you guys. She's currently working on her second book, an illuminating exploration of personal and collective transformation that will empower readers to evolve their consciousness for an uncertain future. So Keri is more than just an author and speaker. She's a guide for those seeking deeper meaning and transformation in a chaotic world. With over 20 years of experience as a wholeness advocate and spiritual teacher, Keri understands the frustration of feeling stuck and disconnected. Through her writing and teachings, Keri helps people break free from limiting beliefs to rediscover their true essence and align with their core values. She's certified in all kinds of stuff, you guys. Everything from yoga, Ayurveda, energy work, meditation. She's started taking on alchemy, archetypes, rituals. She knows a lot of stuff, you guys. So today we're going to talk about her book. We're going to go through kind of some of the lessons she went through and some things in her book. We talk about, mainly we go into that midlife, it's only a crisis if you make it one. Okay, it's a transformation, you guys. We got to reframe this whole midlife thing. We are not in a midlife crisis, and we talk a lot about what that means to us, to both of us. We both talk about it. So let's jump in and hear all the cool stuff that Keri and I talked about. Hi, Keri. Thanks for being here with us.
Hi, Jen. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, right. So I just got done telling everybody a little bit about you. But I think where I want to start is with your personal midlife spiritual journey, which I feel like is mirrored in your first book, right?
It definitely is.
It definitely is mirrored in there. And so I told you guys her book's called Embodying Soul, A Return to Wholeness. And it's it takes a minute to figure out what's happening, Keri. Right? But then once you're in, because she kind of goes back and forth, I want to say between, like, would you call it two realms? Between our life here on earth and also where our soul's hanging out, like a soul spiritual type realm. So we go back and forth. And
absolutely.
She's got a name for her soul and some of her spirit. Would you call them spirit guides that you've named? Like angel spirit guides?
My soul guide.
Your soul guide. Yeah. So she's got different names for them in the book. So they're kind of characters in the book. Which is cool.
Absolutely. I bring them all to life. I mean, if you've ever asked yourself, what would my soul think about this decision I'm making right now? That's essentially what I did in the book.
Yeah,
I'm
because
like,
we do have
here's what I went through. Yeah. And here's how my soul looks at that.
Yeah, because
different.
We're always in conversation with our soul and ourself, right? So you kind of bring it to life in the book as a real conversation. Yeah, that we can eavesdrop on almost. Yes.
Exactly. And it was fascinating because I hadn't done any of that kind of work before, where you just basically write to a higher version of yourself. That's essentially what it is.
Right.
And it was crazy because I have these stories that, to me were so painful and so hard and so embarrassing. And then you put it through the filter of your soul and your soul's like, thank you, Keri. That was a very cool experience. I learned so much. I explored so much. I really feel like this is exactly what I wanted when I said, I'm going to go be a human being. Like, this is it.
You start to see like, oh, that there's a purpose to all this BS that I've been doing this lifetime. I'm supposed to learn some things, I guess, huh? If everything's perfect, we're learning nothing. So it kind of helps you reframe.
It's all in the reflection.
Yes, it's all in the reflection and the reframing so that you can appreciate things and bring it forward. We're going to talk a little bit of the book and then we're going to move to a million things because Keri's got little insights in everything. So we're going to try and hit on as much as we can today. But so in the book, you talk about, you go through different things because you talk to your soul, but we also hear life stories about you and all of that. So tell me a little bit about what led up to the purge. Was this part, because
Oh,
this was a big part of your soul, part of the journey, right? Like
boy, yeah, you're
doing
going deep.
doing the
Yeah.
work in the purge. Yeah.
Well, yes. It's so interesting because I just finished listening to your episode with Karen, the yoga
Caribbean.
teacher.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe how much our paths aligned because I too, took that first yoga class and then just dove in
Dove into
and
the yoga.
became
Yes.
fully immersed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know how, but it changes you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think partially, honestly, it's so simple because it's quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And when things are quiet, you hear your own voice more. And when you hear your own voice more, you kind of start to realize, my gosh, like there's a lot of chaos going on in here. And there's a lot of unresolved dialogues in here. And wait a second, is that actually my mother's voice or my voice?
Yep.
Or where is that coming from? Look at that self doubt. And so all of that light started shining on my life. And I was a young mother and I was trying to fulfill societal expectations. Be a good
Sure.
mother, be a
Yep.
good wife, and I wasn't in the corporate world at that time, but I had been. And so I was kind of facing this, well, who am I if not in the corporate world? Who am I if I'm not bringing in lots of money? And so I think just over the years of practicing yoga and there was so much to take in, right?
Yep.
And I think there was so much wisdom and there was so much new perspective. And what about this? And I think that there's only so much ability for us to hold multiple things at once. And so for any of these new beliefs to come in, a lot of old beliefs had to go.
Oh, yeah. We got to make room.
Either that or I was going to have to quit yoga because yoga continued to challenge a lot of my existing beliefs.
Mm-hmm. What were your
For
existing
instance,
beliefs? Yeah. Let's
religious
tell us
beliefs.
about how you were raised.
Mhm.
What religion were you raised in?
So, kind of a non-practicing Protestant.
Okay.
So we didn't go to church very often, but that doesn't mean that the principles of the Christian religion didn't still make their way in me.
Yes.
You don't have to go to church every single week to still understand the basic messages. And the basic
Mm-hmm.
messages that I got were that God is watching you all the time. And I think I write about this in the book. And I know that that message for a lot of people is so reassuring and comforting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God is with you all the time. For me, it was like paranoia. It was, I couldn't, I was so afraid of being watched 24/7. And then I thought, oh my gosh, he can read my thoughts. Oh, and then all of a sudden I'm swearing on purpose in my brain just to see if it's going to create
Lightning
trouble
bolts
for
coming
me.
down from the sky or
Right.
something. And I think that's part of with the religious part, isn't just our beliefs. There's a lot of good beliefs in there, but I think they make it a little bit scary, a little bit too scary sometimes, a little bit too
Well,
judgmental.
especially,
Yeah.
yeah. And especially when you're a young person
Yes.
and and you were young when you were really young, like you were free and you played and there wasn't bad and good. There wasn't
Right.
really right or wrong. I mean, those are the things that we learn as we grow older.
Mm-hmm.
And then religion comes along and really says there's good and there's bad and there's heaven and there's hell.
Mm-hmm. And
And
we're going to tell
it
you exactly what to do and not
terrified
to do.
me.
Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And here yoga came along and said, I mean, and I credit to all of my teachers. My teachers were not just teaching poses, they were teaching the philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, through taking yoga, I was studying deeper philosophies and I was studying Hinduism and Buddhism without really
Mm-hmm.
knowing it.
Right.
And then you get to this point and you're like, well, but if that's true, how can this be true? If karma's a thing, how can this be true? If we're chanting to Ganesh, well, now am I going to get in trouble over here? And so that's what I mean
Right.
about as all of these new beliefs came in, it challenged all my old beliefs and something had to give.
Yes. Because it manifested also for you and for most of us, it manifests sometimes in some different forms of just, we label mental illness. We label it anxiety. We label it depression. We label it all these things, right? So we make it really into like an us problem. Like we really store all of that junk deep in our bodies, right?
Mm.
Like all
We
the
pathologize
emotions.
it. which is
Yes. Because I think you've talked
exactly
about how,
right.
like, we're expected to control our anger. We're all our feelings, just put it, especially as women. And we kind of get towards midlife and we're like, I've stored an awful lot in this body and I'm sick. Like, physically, mentally, in all the ways possible, I feel ill. Yeah. So we have to unravel it.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and we've been telling ourselves all along that all of those things that we've stored in our body, we're supposed to just endure that for the rest of our lives. We're
Right.
just supposed to hold it. And this is particular to women,
Mm-hmm.
that we are taught how to hold. And I watched my mother do it. I watched my grandmother do it. And I was even taught, my mother even told me at one point, because I come from a family of two brothers
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of uncles. And my mother always told me, we women are here to keep the peace. Well,
Okay.
that job requires an ability to hold your feelings, your emotions, your anger, as you
Mm-hmm.
say, your annoyance, grin and bear it.
Yep.
And I am from the Midwest. I'm not sure where you're
I'm
from.
from the
Are you?
Midwest, Illinois. Yep.
Well, then you
Midwesterners.
know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. And we were brought up not to take up our own space, right?
Correct.
Like, because we absorb our own feelings and everybody else is around us. And we just go with it. We're just trying to keep the peace, right?
Mhm.
Everybody around is happy, sometimes at our own expense. Yep. So then you
Yes.
got to purge it.
So then, yes, and I think the scene you're talking about was the scream on Lake Avenue in Minneapolis,
Yeah.
right? I think that's the story. Well, what happened was is so all of this is coming to a head, and so I started therapy, and I worked with this woman who saw me.
Mm-hmm.
She saw that here I was, a woman with a stoic face, and yet all this turmoil right under
Yeah.
the surface. And she was not afraid to just try digging under that. And she asked me at one point, she said, Keri, have you ever been raped? And I said, absolutely not. And she said, well, are you sure? And she said, just so you know, it doesn't have to be intercourse for
Yeah. No.
you, and it doesn't have to be a stranger, and all of these ideas. This is not always what it has to look like. And I said, well, I'll think about it. And
Yeah.
and it wasn't even like I thought about it. It's more like my body heard
Mm-hmm.
somebody acknowledge its own traumas
Yep.
and its own, that all the times I'd discounted it and all
Mm-hmm.
the times I'd written it off.
Yep.
And it wasn't even me anymore. And my husband and I had dinner reservations that night, and here I was just dressing for dinner and gonna go out and pretend like everything's fine,
Yeah.
but I couldn't. I just couldn't. My body was shaking with anger and rage and repressed pain. And we're talking at dinner, trying to act normal, and I'm telling him about this conversation, and I'm telling him about some very real stories that suddenly my body remembered, and he was not responding. He was not reacting. He was kind of just shutting down. I mean, granted, we're in a public restaurant
Right.
when this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, he says to the waiter, we're going to take that food to go.
Yeah. He knew he
And
needed
I'm
to get
like,
out
what
of
are we
there.
doing? Yeah. He's like, well, I don't know what's happening. And he he pays, we leave. He's heading to the car. I'm following behind him. I'm starting to feel like a naughty little girl.
Right. Like, what I do wrong. Yeah.
What I do. And we get in the car and I'm still going at him. I'm still, this happened, and I need you to hear me. I need you to hear me. And his hands are just on the steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't take it anymore. I just began screaming at the top of my lungs over and over and over and over again. And this is the story in the book. And I couldn't stop once I started. It just felt so good. It felt like such a relief.
Release. You
It was coming
releasing.
from the
Deep.
pit of my
Mm-hmm.
essence, it's clearing out. And my husband the whole time,
Well, he
hands
was
on the
like, what's
steering wheel.
happening? What do I do? He didn't know what to do.
He didn't know what to do. And then it was finally over, and then I was of two thoughts. Number 1, "Oh my god, I feel so much better. Oh my god. Oh, this is incredible." And shame. My
Mm-hmm.
husband's gonna divorce me. What did I just do? This is not okay. This
Yeah.
isn't the woman he married. And so finally we get home and we had to pay the babysitter.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed in the car while he did that because I couldn't go in.
No, huh?
And then and then he comes back out and he opens my car door and he holds his hands out and he picks me up and he carries me into the house and up to our bedroom. And then he finally says, "Keri, I am so sorry." And I cried and I
Well,
cried and
yeah.
I cried. And finally I said, "Why didn't you say anything?"
Mm-hmm.
That was so like, "Why?" And he said, "Keri, I didn't know what to do. I just wanted to keep you safe. I saw you coming apart and I just wanted you home and in a safe place."
Yes, that was his mindset. He just wanted to get you to safety and then have the conversation. And
And then
then
have
like,
the conversation. But I still struggled with the fact that he wasn't able to do something more during that process. But I have since talked to, my healers about that. And she has always said, "Keri, actually, if he had said something in the restaurant, if he had been able to meet you, say, it might have stopped the process. And
yeah.
you might never have come to the scream. And you may still be holding that today."
Yeah.
And
No,
I
it,
thought,
it
well,
played
that
out. It played out how it was supposed to play out. It sometimes doesn't
yeah.
feel like it to us when we're in the middle of something. Like, why is no one helping me more? Like, and we're pissed.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
later, hindsight, right? We can look back and say, oh, that was supposed to all play out like that. Yeah. If anyone would
Well,
have
there's
helped me then,
nothing
I wouldn't have helped myself.
scarier.
Mm.
Yeah, and there's nothing scarier than feeling like you don't have control over your body. It
Yeah.
is a terrifying
Hmm.
feeling,
For sure.
that my body was leading that and that I couldn't control it.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have to listen. I'm sure now you listen to your body much more when it tells you things, right?
Yeah,
You kind of start to
definitely.
feel it
But
ahead
there's
of time. Yeah.
still, conditioning is strong.
Very strong. Yes.
So
Oh, so you got,
it's
all
always
right.
that balance.
So there's all kinds of stories in the book, you guys. You're just going to have to buy it and read all about all these things and all her,
Yeah.
her soul friends along the way and speaking with her soul and all that. Okay. There's a lot to it. And then because this book was a few years ago, where has the journey taken you since?
Yes. So one thing I didn't get to write about in that book that happened right before it
Mm-hmm.
is because or right at the time I was writing it. So I guess I'm backing up just a little bit
Yeah.
first because this feels like where I wanted to go. I that book was a little bit of a midlife crisis book for me.
Yeah.
And I because it was a moment where I didn't know where I was going to go next. I had been, as I said, a yoga teacher, but I left that world. And for a while, I was an Ayurvedic practitioner and I left that world. Ayurveda's sister science of
Yeah.
yoga.
Absolutely.
And so I started this book when I was kind of in between incarnations,
Mm-hmm.
in between life paths. And so I went to Myanmar for 3 weeks by myself
Okay.
on a pilgrimage. And that is when I kind of got the message that the encouragement to continue the book
Mm-hmm.
and also the encouragement to really become a writer, to not let this book be the one and only,
Yes.
but to really allow my voice and to build a platform around my writing, which up until that point, I hadn't been a writer per se. And so I think that book between that book and the pilgrimage, opened up the permission structure within myself to honor my voice and really speak to my journey, but women's journeys, human journeys,
Yeah.
through all kinds of transformation.
Yeah, because you write all kinds of articles. I mean, we'll have all the links, you guys, but she's got all kinds of stuff she's writing about. And so, okay, so tell me just briefly a little bit more about this pilgrimage, because there's probably people listening right now are like, I need me a pilgrimage. I think
Yes,
that sounds amazing. So you did 3 weeks. You don't have to do 3 weeks, everybody. Your pilgrimage, it doesn't have to be far away. It can mean a lot of different things, to a lot of different people. But what did your pilgrimage mean for you? Did you isolate for 3 weeks? What did you do? Were you meditating? What were you doing for 3 weeks
I
that you
did
did that?
not. You know what was really great about this is post purge.
Mm-hmm.
This is post yoga identification. And I chose Myanmar, and probably your listeners are like, why Myanmar?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, people go to India and maybe they go to
Sure.
Thailand.
All over.
But Myanmar, there was this perfect little window where Myanmar was open to tourism, and they were really, really excited to have tourists. And it was really safe for tourists, especially single
Yeah.
women.
Right.
And so that's kind of why I went there. It wasn't as touched as India or Thailand. It was a little bit more, people hadn't been there,
Yeah.
but it still had all this sacredness and it still had all the temples, and it's very Buddhist
Mm-hmm.
there. And because I wasn't any of these other things, I got to go really free, like a child. I got
Yeah.
to go to Myanmar and really be so free to just experience the people and the places without any kind of expectation. And so I did not meditate or do anything silent like that. I experienced the community.
Okay. Yeah.
I spent time with the people. I went to their homes. I went to the monasteries. I went to the nunneries.
Mm-hmm.
I went to small villages. I went to factories. I went to temples. I basically just every single day was just an experience. And I had a guide. So I was never really alone,
Yeah.
which was good
Right. And
because Myanmar doesn't have a lot of English translations like
I was gonna say
maybe they
you
do in
kind of got a
Thailand.
translator. Yeah.
You really do need the help and to experience things properly. And I think
Yeah.
I got a lot more access to things because I had
Because you had the translator
a
with you.
guide.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. And then, so you're basically just opened yourself up to just learn from others, everyone in the community. Was there any one particular
Yes.
moment that was like, aha, I've got to change some stuff?
Yeah. Yes, it was more like a moment where I realized that I don't need to be attached to my identities.
Mhm.
My identities aren't who I am. I am so much more than what I call myself, what I label myself, or how other people see me, which is how I'd been taught to move through the world, especially in the West. What do you
Oh,
do
yeah.
for a living is the first thing people say to you, right?
Yeah.
In Myanmar, the first thing they said to you is "Nekaunla," and "Nekaunla" translates to "Have you eaten yet?"
Oh, sounds like my kind of place. Yeah.
Right? And so while I'm there, people are wanting to give me food. They're wanting to
Hmm.
take pictures with me. They're just honoring me for me, and I'm honoring them for them. And it's just this beautiful human moment. And so the one story that I'd love to share is that I told my guide, I had an itinerary, but I told him, I said, I'm always willing to go off grid. Like,
Yeah.
whatever you suggest, I'm
Hmm.
here for it. And so one day we're driving from one destination to another, and he pulls off on the side of the road, and there was nothing there. I mean, there were trees, there was a hill. Yeah, and I'm thinking, is he going to leave me here?
Right. What's
Because if he
happening?
did,
Yeah.
I mean, so I just want to say, first of all, this trip was not without fear and was not without anxiety
Oh,
and
sure.
what am I doing? It
Right.
certainly had those things. So anyway, I follow him. He's kind of like, just come this way. So I follow him. And we eventually make it to this little small home. And he talks to there was a couple of women. He talks to them and they're pointing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I have no idea.
Yeah.
And eventually they invite me in with a wave. And so I come in and I sit down and there's a little boy there too. And I get to meet him. And so we're translating. They're asking me questions. They're giving me food. I'm sitting on this little bench. And it was just I don't know, I was probably there for half an hour. Who knows? I didn't have a
Yeah.
watch or anything like that. But you're just we're just translating back and forth, and they're asking me questions about America because they're fascinated,
Yeah.
and I'm asking them all kinds of questions about their lives, and then it was time to go. And so I follow, back to the car. We get in the car, and I said to my guide, I said, "How did you know that family?" And he said, "I don't."
Oh, he just felt this vibe. Like, I need to bring her up here.
Yeah, and just that's how the people are, right? They're
They're very
so open. I
open.
mean, can you even
Hmm.
imagine someone knocking on your door and saying, "Hey, I've got some tourists here. Would you let them in and
Yeah.
cook
Can you
them
let
some
a couple
dinner?" And
strangers in and feed them and take care? We don't even go to the door anymore. We don't answer our phone or go to the door anymore.
no, no. So it was just this complete experience of just being human and not having to be valuable because of a service that I provide, but just the presence together. And it just gave me such permission, as upon my return home. And I said, yes, then I became a writer, but it came from a place of desire rather than need.
Yeah.
It came from a place of my soul rather than my ego.
Hmm.
It came from a place of a calling rather than, what's going to make me a lot of money, because I promise writing doesn't make a lot of money.
No, you're doing it. It's part of your journey, is why you're doing it. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. It's part of the journey. And so would you say you came home and kind of were coming out of a dark night of the soul? Were you going into one, coming out of one? Where was that in the
I
journey?
was right in between.
Okay.
I would say that I was in what we call a liminal stage, like in a time in between.
The in
And
between.
I
Okay.
Because I wasn't, yeah, the dark night of the soul was kind of now past, but I
Hmm.
had been in one,
Yep.
and the rebirth was not yet available. So, yeah, liminal, a space, they call it like betwixt and between.
Hmm.
Not this, not quite that, messy middle.
Yeah, which a
And
lot of us are probably in
there's a
right now. Like if you're
I think
listening,
so.
you might be in the messy middle right now. Yeah.
I think
Feels
so.
messy right
I
now,
think so.
doesn't it?
And
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, chaos brings us into the messy
Yep.
middle, whether it's personal or collective.
Yes.
And so, yes, and we don't have a lot of understanding around liminal spaces in the
Mm-mm.
West.
No.
And
So
so a lot of my writing, as you mentioned, it kind of is all over the place, but a lot of my writing is about the stages of life, the
yeah.
breakdowns, the reflections, the liminal space, and the rebirths.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what, if we can make life feel more cyclical rather than so linear, then I think that just really
We
frees
get
things
really
up.
stuck in the linear timeline for sure. You were just talking about, you write a lot about different stages of life. And for me and most of my listeners, and you're in the same, we're in this midlife, right? This whole
Mhm.
midlife. And I love because you said earlier, I think I was in a midlife crisis during the book, but you also say that midlife is only a crisis if you make it one, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
so let's give us some insight because maybe you can help us figure this whole midlife thing out, Keri.
Or maybe we'll just leave it in the messy middle somewhere.
Yes,
Uh,
I mean messy middle's necessary too. It's all there, right? There's no way around it. We got to go through it. So,
right.
how do we not make this a midlife crisis? What are you thinking? Because this started for you.
Mhm.
So she has an article online about this that I read. And so you talk about how you were looking up the definition, who came up with this whole midlife crisis baloney, and what there was their theory behind it. And you kind of then break it down, right? Because we hear the word crisis. And like you said, we hear the word crisis and we think like something's going down. We got to immediately fix this, right? Like this is bad, bad, bad. And so I feel like if we can flip the script on that whole thought pattern, we're going to be better off here in this middle part
I
of our
mean,
journey.
amen. I think the first thing that's important to know is in the Japanese language, the word crisis is made up of two characters. The first character represents danger,
Okay.
so that makes sense. But the second character represents a turning point.
Okay.
And that has really helped me understand what crisis really is. I mean, like you just said, we hear crisis, we think we got to get out of it right away. We got to
Mm-hmm.
fix it. This is dangerous. But it's also this incredible opportunity to reinvent ourselves.
Yeah.
Because what a crisis does is it breaks down a lot of our illusions and a lot of false beliefs and a lot of our conditioning
Mm-hmm.
that we've been up to that point living with.
Yes.
And the midlife crisis to me is just that time where perhaps we're reaching a purge stage, to
Yes.
connect this to earlier, right?
Yes.
Where we're just coming to this point where all of these things that we've been conditioned to believe, the ways that we've been living our lives,
Hmm.
we're starting to question them because we're starting to see through them. Maybe they're not true. Maybe this doesn't work for me. And that breakdown is really uncomfortable.
Yes.
And so if we just hurry up and try to fix it, all we'll really do is just patch that up and we'll just refortify those beliefs, right? We'll
Yeah.
just go double
If we
down on them
band-aid it or
instead.
ignore it, some of us just like to bury even more, right?
Yes.
Just pretend
Yep.
it's not happening. Okay.
But,
Okay.
if my lesson from the beginning of the show provides any advice there, eventually your body does know if you're
Oh, for
continuing to
sure.
bury
And
things.
this is the age we're starting to have chronic illness. Our bodies are starting to have some things going on. I think we're all starting to wake up to the fact we don't just need to go to the doctor and do what he says all the time, right? There's not a pill for everything, you guys. Sometimes we have to
Right.
do the work and start working on healing stuff and releasing things. And oh, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot of work, but
Yeah. So this idea of becoming disillusioned at midlife is really, it is an opportunity because now you get to say, okay, well, if I don't believe that anymore, and if I don't believe that, then what?
right.
Right? There's really an opportunity for more freedom to explore life in maybe a different way. And so if we can resist the urge to just patch it up and fix it up,
Yep.
if we can find support, and this is what I try to write about, is I try to offer support for people who are in breakdown or crisis, whether it's
Hmm.
midlife or identity or an
Anything. Yeah.
existential crisis. Yeah. That instead of rushing to fix it, what can we do to support ourselves through that breakdown? What kind of work can we do? What kind
Hmm.
of journaling can we do? How can we see this as significant and full of meaning
Hmm.
rather than just disaster?
Yes. Because you kind of talk a little bit too about how we feel limitations put on us because of probably a little bit because of our age, right? And you go through, she's got some fun stories and different things. So I identified with some of these because,
Yes.
our kids are kind of passing us all up in technology and all the things that we're turning into like the old people all of a sudden, which I never really, right? We don't think of ourselves as that midlife. We're not old yet, but then you start to see and you start feeling older. You just do. You're like, okay, I don't know what that music is. I don't know what that internet, all of this, the social media, the TikTok, we're trying to stay in the loop, but like it's a little tricky for us Gen Xers, but we're hanging in there.
Yes. Yes. So that definition that you were talking about was from Elliot Jacques, who was a Canadian psychoanalyst. And he said there were three things that mark a midlife crisis.
Hmm.
And the first one was, yeah, facing new limitations.
Yeah.
And then I thought, yes, but are they limitations really? Or is it freedom? Because like I say, I don't feel pressured to go out to dinner with my friends if I'm not feeling well. I can just call them up and say, I'm not feeling well. This doesn't work tonight. Whereas my daughters, who are 25 and 23, are still under the influence of the
Oh
peer
no, they're
pressure.
going out whether they want to or not, right?
That's right.
They're going to be in their comfy jammies on the couch and they're going to get all dressed up and go out because that's what they think they need to do at 23. And we know
So who's
now,
more limited?
yeah, I, I know once I get my jammies on and I'm comfy, I'm going nowhere. Like, no.
That's
And I'm fine. And I don't care what people think, right? So sometimes these limitations that this dude was talking about, this guy, of course, was talking about is actually a benefit. We got to flip the script on all that.
I
Yeah.
mean, one person's limitation is another person's freedom.
Yes. We've learned enough lessons that might feel a little bit limited. And maybe you are starting to be limited in that physically, maybe you're not where you used to be, but that's okay, right? Maybe you can't run the marathon anymore. Okay, but you can do plenty of other things, yeah, that are just as fulfilling.
And I agree. I think, and we're hitting menopause.
Mm-hmm.
These do bring about limited, mobility. And oh my gosh, I had frozen shoulder last year. I had no
Yeah.
idea what that was.
You get up and
And so,
both of
okay,
your
so
hips hurt like hell. And you're like, what's
right,
happening to me? Like my hips.
right,
But then you
right.
just work on
So,
the cake.
but I think these limited possibilities are sort of, in the body for sure, but in the mind, I think especially I think that there's more freedom that's happening to us at midlife if we're willing to do that breakdown work.
Hmm.
Because no, my daughters are not yet at the place in their life where they are really questioning the societal conditioning and the
Hmm.
beliefs that I raised them with or that the culture raised them with. They're not questioning them because they're still working for them, right? To
Yes.
some degree, they're still working. And so that's where they are supposed to be. At midlife, we're supposed to get to the point that we say, okay, but wait a second. And through that work, we just, I think, and that's where I say our freedom comes from.
Hmm.
And more possibilities of the way that we're thinking. We become more flexible in
Yes.
our minds than we were before.
Yeah. And when you get on these spiritual journeys, your mind starts to open more too, to the entire world around us, right? We don't feel limited by just what we've learned and what we know. We start to see like, oh, there's a lot of other things going on out there. It's everything's not
Yes.
revolving around me, is it? We got to all connect with the oneness again. We got to get back all together in the old oneness here.
Oh, we need a little of that. And we need
Yeah.
more sacredness.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that I think so he mentions in here, one of the three things is that, the midlife crisis is marked with more of awareness of our
Of our
mortality.
mortality. Okay.
But I would say it's also a time in our lives where we start to realize the sacredness of life.
Mm,
And we decide to start bringing more meaning into our lives. Human beings are the only life force that brings meaning to events that happen.
yeah.
And we do that. Events don't have meanings in and of themselves, right? A person graduating from high school, that doesn't have meaning until we all get together and celebrate that through ceremony.
Great. Yes.
And I think, at least for me, I do a lot more of that in my midlife. I take time, for instance, I took my daughters out to dinner after their first big breakups
Hmm.
because I wanted to infuse those experiences with meaning.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have this opportunity for them to say, here's what I've learned. Here's what I know now about myself. Here's what I'm taking away from this.
From this
And
experience. Yep.
yeah, not just rush past it. And I think that's a gift of being in midlife, not
Yes,
a
because
negative.
it's not about our mortality as our death, like our final day on earth. It's more about, and you talk in the article even too about, it's the death of other things that's more important. The death of not giving a shit what other people think. The death of, right? Not caring.
Right.
You even talk about, I also watched the death of my desire to see the good in other people. You were like, I don't have to look for the good in other people all the time, do I? Because people aren't
I don't.
all inherently good. Instead of just
Nope.
assuming people are good, you've made this switch, and I've kind of made this switch too. Instead of just assuming everybody's good, you just wait and you see what vibe you're getting from them. How are they presenting themselves? How do I feel about them? How do they treat other people? And then you
Mhm.
decide, is this someone good enough to be in my life or not? Yeah.
Mhm. How worthy are they of trust?
Yes.
I mean, not everybody is worthy of trust. I mean, when I was young and naive, I trusted people all the time. I mean, I thought that that was a good thing to always trust people. And then, you trust the wrong people with the wrong stories. And,
Yeah. And you're like, geez.
you
Yeah.
learn from
We
that.
stop. I feel like we stop blindly being led by others too. Whether it's, I mean, even medically, our doctors, we start to think, I think I could be working on this on my own. I don't think I just need that pill from him. I think I can take some of this on myself. I don't have to put my doctor on this pedestal and listen to every word he says, right? Not that we don't need the doctors. I'm
Right.
not saying that. I'm just saying we start to think a little more independently also and say, maybe I should research this. Maybe I can find a more holistic way to add to these benefits or whatever. Or, we want to, I mean, God knows I don't feel like talking about politics, but we stop blindly listening to every politician and every leader and every church leader. You know what I mean? We stop deciding that everyone else can tell us what our path is. We start going, no, I'm carving my own path now. Like, I
Mhm.
am not going to
Yep.
listen to all these people who are deciding what I should be doing. So that's a big part of midlife. We're killing off all that stuff. Yeah.
And having this ability to listen to our own soul, our higher selves.
Yes. Yep.
That is a freedom that comes in midlife that I don't know that younger people, again, have that ability. They are still sort of stuck in yes, the shoulds, the have
Hmm.
tos, the, you know, the authority figures. I mean,
Right.
hats off to, people who are experts, but yeah, they're just human beings too. And
Sure.
so
Yeah.
there's always the opportunity to get the second opinion or the third
Yeah.
opinion
No, I mean, I have
to
a daughter who
listen to
still
what's
won't not cross at the crosswalk. You know what I'm like? But wait, you're going to make me walk a block to cross at a crosswalk, but there's literally no traffic. She's like, no, we're not doing, because she's nervous about, again, what everyone in the world's thinking if she crosses in the middle of a road, right? She's right, breaking
that's right.
a silly rule. So no, I definitely think there's something to be said for us figuring that out, because you say it's not midlife that's dangerous. It's our approach to it. So it's you guys, it's all about how we approach this next phase. This is up to us. We have complete control over this next phase because we aren't being controlled about what we have to do for our kids necessarily anymore, what we have to do for our partners and our jobs and our this and our that. Like, we can start deciding now who gets who
Mhm.
and what gets our time.
We reclaim our own power. We step into our own power and to our own voice. And the other thing we're free of at midlife is the male gaze.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I remember the first time it happened. I was with my young daughters. We were in New York and we were going to a show together. And I remember this older man, ogling my young daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And I just looked at him and I gave him the death glare.
Yeah.
And at first, he gave me that kind of a "what you gonna do" look,
Right.
but then
You're
he
like,
kind of remembered his wife was right next to him.
oh, huh.
And, pretty quickly, he's kinda, like, turning the other way, and I thought, "Oh my gosh," like, it's so hard as a mother to see that and to witness that, but,
Mm-hmm.
like, I just felt my mother bear instincts
Yep.
just flare because, yeah, no more is it I don't have to deal with that anymore. I can walk
No,
down the street. I can walk by the construction workers. They don't bother me anymore. Great.
no. Yeah.
I'm free.
Well, yeah, we don't worry as much about how we look every minute of every day. Before we leave the house, we
Yeah.
have to do a 3 million things to ourselves. We start
Yeah.
breaking free of all that.
I'm still working on it. I
Oh,
used to
God,
be the
yeah.
person every single morning, the shower, the fancy clothes, like the makeup every single day. And
Uh,
I don't even know if I've showered yet today. I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. I like this.
yeah.
Oh, dude.
So we're switching from midlife crisis to just a midlife transformation. We're just morphing. We're transforming. We're coming out of the old cocoon now, right? We're going to do the
Well,
next
that's right.
thing.
I mean,
Yeah.
and the metaphor of the caterpillar is always perfect here, right? So, because you can't,
Yeah.
you don't get to be a butterfly unless you break down completely. And that's for us too. And I think that's the part that we miss as human beings is we miss that, we want the rebirth, but we don't want to go through death to get it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So let's talk part about what Keri does here, because you have a couple different things that I saw online. I downloaded them, so I've got them. I'm working on them.
Oh,
But the first one, and I think this helps every age, but midlifers especially, is your free self-talk assessment. Okay.
mm.
So tell us about that, because you download this and it gives you the questions we need to start asking ourselves, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I don't think that we even, I always imagine that if at the end of the day, you got a ticker tape, right? Like a receipt from a grocery store
Hmm.
that listed everything that you thought and said to yourself throughout the day,
Yeah,
I I think we'd be shocked just to see how much dialogue there is, how much old content is coming back, how many memories we're revisiting,
well, yeah, and how terrible we treat ourselves. Like,
and how terrible we treat
because if
ourselves,
we said
and
all
the
the
ways
things
in
to
which
others we said to ourselves, we would
yep,
not be their friend anymore.
no,
No. Uh-uh.
no, and I would say that not only are we too hard on ourselves, there is another part of our brain that is too easy on ourselves as
Mm,
well.
okay.
And what I mean about that is that's the part of ourselves that's always making excuses for
Mm,
our behavior
yeah.
rather than learning and growing.
Hmm.
So instead of saying, "Why did I respond that way? What was behind that?" We say, "Well, I responded that way because they did this."
Yes.
And we,
They
we
deserve that.
just so it's both, right? It's the dialogue in our mind is both, self kind of making ourselves feel better for things we're not willing to look at.
Yes.
And yeah, and self-degrading, guilt and shame are one thing we didn't talk about from my book is there's all my emotions are in there too,
Every emotion,
and they
yes.
all get a voice.
Every anger,
And
everyone's got a voice. Yeah, there's a lot of
yeah,
characters in this book, you guys.
yes.
So you gotta figure that whole thing out. Yeah.
And that's the whole self-talk, right? And so what I did in that book is I kind of identified, well, that self-talk is coming from my guilt. That self-talk is coming from my shame. And they live inside us, this
Yeah.
guilt and shame that's probably since childhood. So the self-talk assessment is just that first step to say, okay, like I'm just going to take a sliver. I'm just going to take a brief look at, what
What I say to
what I'm
myself.
saying to myself.
Yes.
Yes, and then from there, and this is up on YouTube now, so maybe we can put it in the notes
Yeah.
because now I have a free 5-day self-talk workshop essentially
Oh, it's a 5-day.
with
Okay. Because you have a 5-week
it's
program, but this is the 5-day program. Right. For
well,
self-talk.
let's just say it's 5 steps. So if you want to take a week for each exercise or you want to take a day for each exercise, it just depends on your timing, but now that it's up on YouTube, it's really
So wait, is this your
flexible.
5-week program, the Your Life, Your Terms? Is that what you're talking about? Or no,
That
that's different.
that is even the next step. Yeah.
We got steps. Okay. Because
We've
I
got
did download, because you also have this little downloadable, your free crisis guide. And that's got
yeah.
8 little steps in it to help
Yeah.
you when you're in crisis mode, right?
Yeah.
When shit's hitting the fan. Okay. And so that's got 8 different things that you can work on. And then when you get to that point, so you're saying that then we also have a 5-day program, assessment type
Yeah.
program. Okay.
Yeah, I call it a challenge,
It's a challenge.
and
Okay.
that's on YouTube, and that's free, and every single day is let's look at another aspect of our self-talk, and it comes with exercises, and it comes with meditations,
Ooh, I like
different
that.
meditations,
Like
and they're
self-guided,
really
like
fun
guided
because
meditations. Are they guided or just
they're all
all
guided.
guided? Perfect. Yep.
Yep, and they're all a little different, and so it's like a sampler.
I love a good sampler, because then you can get an idea for if Keri's a good match for you, right? And then if you get to the
Yeah,
point where you're like,
yeah,
okay, I'm doing the work, I'm liking this mode,
yeah,
then that's when you can sign up for your
the
5-week.
course.
Yes, for the
Yeah.
course. Tell me a little bit about this course, because you have one coming up soon. It
Um,
starts very soon in May, like May 1st, you have one
I
coming out. Okay.
do. May 1st. Yes, we're starting Your Life, Your Terms.
Mm-hmm.
It is a 5-week course that it does take us through this whole process we're just talking about, that breakdown stage,
Mm-hmm.
that liminal stage, and the rebirth stage. We do it a little bit differently but that's the model we're going through. So at first, we're just going to examine what kind of societal myths and cultural conditioning are we caught in?
Yeah.
What are our beliefs? What are we saying to ourselves? That's where the self-talk piece is incorporated there.
Okay.
And then we continue to just get deeper and deeper into our own truths. What are my core truths? What are my core values?
What do I
How do
believe?
I
Mm-hmm.
want to be in this world that may or may not be falling apart?
Yep.
How do I want to align myself? Do I want to continue to have my attention controlled by external forces?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I want to find my own inner alignment and know my truth?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
But you can't do that work. You can't live from that place until you, at some point, write down what your values are and
Yes.
really commit to them. We all have values, we all have principles, but how many times throughout the day do we touch base with them and say, Am I in
Yeah.
alignment
And
with
that
my
sounds like it
principles?
would make it easier when we're making decisions. Like, what are our yes
Yeah.
things? What are our no things? We got to get to know
Yeah.
ourselves before we know for sure what that is. Yeah.
I mean, I've always said, what's the point of having values and morals if it never creates any hard yeses and hard nos in our
Right.
lives, if it never finds us on a hill to die on, if it
Yeah.
never brings us to a point where we have to put down a firm boundary,
Yeah.
that's
Absolutely.
the work of this course. So it's deep soul work.
Okay.
And then once we know what those are, then we start to look for other sources and other ways to support us from this new place
Mm,
of our values so that we're not still, again, right now we living in an attention economy. I think
yeah.
that term is becoming kind of popular,
Okay. Yeah.
where our attention is being pulled in 100 different directions,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't have to be. We can find our focus, and then we can live in alignment if we have the right support
Mm-hmm.
and if we're in connection with who we really are.
Yeah.
And then life gets a little simpler from that point. It's not so
Yeah.
overwhelming. We don't
Because
get so
we
tired.
can't fight all the battles for sure. We don't,
No,
we need to each figure out what battles like maybe are on our own path and leave everybody else on theirs doing their thing. Like you said, feeling what our body feels. We got to start getting to know what our real values are, what we really believe, not what we were taught to believe. And then we can get closer to that. Okay. So we figure all that out and
Mhm.
then you help us figure out what to do. Then what do we do? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think once you're living your life on your terms, those answers are yours.
Yeah.
Now you're in touch with that,
Okay.
with that. What do I do
So the 5-week program is to get you to that point where
to
you can,
get you to that
yeah.
empowerment place?
Okay.
I am a teacher and a guide who seeks to empower people rather than lead them.
Empower you to make your own decisions, do your own stuff. Yeah, we don't need any more leaders. We got this, right? We can figure out what we
Especially
need.
false leaders. We can
Yeah.
do away with all the false.
No, let's just lead ourselves. But okay, so we get to that point through the 5 weeks. And then during that 5 weeks, is there some one-on-one time with you? Is it all group? Is it self-led? Like, what's the 5 weeks look like?
So one-on-one is optional,
Mhm.
but then we have a group. I have something called the Alchemist Cave that is
Ooh,
inside the program
okay.
that you get to be a part of once you join the program. So it's a safe community. It's not on Facebook.
No,
So
it's
I
private. So it's
like
just
that.
everyone in the program. You don't have any
Yes,
yoo-hoos coming in with their
correct.
trollism. Nope.
No, because we learn so much in community. We learn
Oh,
so much
yeah.
through reflection, and then there's live meetings with me once a week where we do meditate, where we do talk, where we do reflect, and then there's homework, and it's one of those programs where it's not rigid.
Mhm,
You take it as far as you want to go. I mean, this work to live my life on my terms,
mhm,
I feel like it's taking, I mean, I started my yoga journey when I was 30, so I'm
mhm.
52 now.
Yeah,
And I feel like maybe I'm starting to live my life on my terms. Well, that's 22 years.
yeah.
You know,
This
5
isn't an
weeks, we're not
overnight.
gonna get there.
No, this is not an overnight thing. But a lot of people listening have been on a journey a while too, and maybe at that
That's
point they're
exactly
ready to
right.
do a little bit more intense work, right? To
And
like level up.
that's where there's levels in each stage where,
Yes.
yeah, I've already done a lot of that undoing. Or I'm already in a breakdown. Everything I used to believe is already gone. Now what?
Now what?
I'm already
Yeah.
in liminal. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I like this the
So
liminal
I'm excited
stage. Yeah.
about that, and I'm excited to offer it at this time, just in the culture, because I
Yeah.
feel like there is so much uncertainty
Yeah.
and people do feel unmoored. And I feel like there's that tendency to want to find somebody to connect to,
Yes.
and rather than really doing this work and making this right here, you and you, the most
Hmm.
important connection.
Yes. So do you feel like of the group members you've had, is it a pretty cohesive group? What am I trying to say? Like, is it what kind of group we looking at? Like, if someone's thinking right now, is this group for me? Like, what?
Mhm.
Because we get nervous
So
about that. Joining a group and we're
it's
like,
not
who are these people?
necessarily it's not necessarily all spiritual people. I
Okay.
mean, so I have that background of a yoga teacher, right? So I tend to have a lot of people that also have kind of that spiritual background.
Yes.
But since I've branched out over the recent years, I feel like so is my community.
Yeah.
And I think now I am just welcoming people at any stage. And I feel like that's more what we're getting is more people who are probably over 40,
Mm-hmm.
a little disillusioned
Mm-hmm.
with where their lives are, feeling like they're kind of tired of meeting other people's expectations.
Mm-hmm.
They're tired of following rules that they never wrote.
Yeah.
So I guess tired and maybe frustrated, but still longing for deeper meaning and purpose,
Yeah.
still feeling like they really love this world and want to contribute to it
Mm-hmm.
in a way that is unique instead of, well, I should donate, I should march, I should
Yeah.
all of those things. A lot of those shoulds start getting really exhausting by midlife.
Oh, yeah. You got to figure out what we want to do now. Like, where do we want to put our
Yeah.
time and energy?
Yes. Yes. And getting out and under from those shoulds, we need support to help us do that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it takes somebody else saying, you know what, you don't need to do that for us to hear it.
How
So
about,
sometimes all of those shoulds, we just get buried underneath them and we don't even realize like what kind of an influence they have on us,
yeah.
the kind of weight, the kind
Mm-hmm.
of, undertow they really have on our lives and the drag, right?
Oh, for
So
sure.
somebody else, yeah. So somebody else says, oh, is that really something you want to do? And you get a chance to
Mm-hmm.
say, well, no, but I
Not
feel like
really.
I should. And yeah, it's just amazing. It's amazing freedom. And you get clarity, you get focus, and you get alignment.
Right.
And I can't think of three things that are more important right now
Oh my
than
gosh,
clarity,
yes.
focus, and alignment. So I'm not promising enlightenment,
No, no.
right? I am not promising bliss. I am not promising, eternal happiness.
Right.
I'm not promising we're going to solve all the problems. But if you have alignment with your values, if you have focus, so you know which direction you're going. And then what was the third thing I said?
Oh, shit.
If you have,
Alignment, focus, and
see, this is the midlife one.
I
Oh,
know.
clarity
Clarity.
and
Of course.
clarity.
Well, that makes sense. That was very,
We got there.
we found the clarity. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
And I think if we can have all three of those things, then we can lead our lives more authentically, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
our purpose. That's the whole reason we came here, was to be authentically who we
Yeah.
planned on being and walking the path we meant to. And where most of
Can
us have veered off.
can I please go on a tangent on that for
Sure,
a
tangent
minute?
away.
Because you said it so beautifully that to live authentically is our purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so different again from a lot of us are stuck in these ideas that purpose is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Purpose is a noun. My purpose is to be a fill in the blank,
Yep.
right? Whereas what you said, and I think is so beautiful and so true, is our purpose is authenticity.
Yes.
That may or may not fit into any box, any label, any
Mm-hmm.
title. It may not even be completely understood on this planet at this point in time,
Mm-mm.
but that's it. That's our purpose. It is that simple and that powerful.
Absolutely. Things seem to all line up better when you're living authentically anyway, you guys. Your path seems to get easier. Would you agree? When you're,
Mm.
okay, not always easier, because being authentic can be freaking hard. Okay. If you're not with what your societal norms are in your area or within your family unit, within your community, whatever it is, right? Your religion, your church, whatever you're doing right now, you might be breaking free and it might be a little bit painful to be authentic. I'm not saying it goes without, but once you get to the other side and you're living authentically, you've broken through some of that, you've figured out, like you said, you've gone through the 5 steps, you know what you believe, what you don't believe, what's important to you, what's not important to you anymore, then it gets easier because then we're walking our path, the right one. Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I think
Yeah.
anyway.
And it takes a lot of courage to live a life
It
from
does.
authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, especially in the groups that our upbringing.
Yes.
And especially if we're making that transition, if we're transforming while we're still relating in those communities, it really can be challenging.
Because
I
some
mean, I
people are not going
remember
to
when I was,
understand what you're doing, you guys. People won't understand what you're doing.
no,
If they've never done this spiritual journey thing or thought about it, are not going to go off the normal path they were taught as children, they aren't going to get it. And that gets to be a
no,
little bit hurtful, you have to remember they're on their path. It's okay. It's okay. They don't get it. They're not supposed to get it yet, maybe, right? This isn't their
Mhm.
lifetime to get it. I don't know, but
Mhm.
it can be a little bit painful. Yeah. I've had people ask me, so do you still think, are you still able to pray to God? And I'm like, what are you even saying? Like, yeah, you're not getting this at all. What do you mean? Do you think I have a bunch of upside down crosses in my house and I'm doing like devil worship? What are you all thinking out there? Like, no. And I have to explain, I don't know where you got that from, but I am totally closer with God, the angels, Jesus, all the people that okay, I'm closer with them now. It's hard for them to understand that, right? Because it's not in the way that they were taught through the church. And the beliefs don't line up perfectly with whatever religion they're in. And that's for Christian, Muslim, everybody. Everybody's got their own thought process of why they're right and the other one's wrong. And my belief is everyone's right. We're all heading the same direction. Cut everybody a little slack. Like,
Yeah. You do you, I think
yeah.
that's I remember when I first started, my transformation in those uncomfortable early stages where it's
Mm-hmm.
just awkward and you're trying to speak from your more authentic voice. You're trying to live your more authentic life, but you kind of do still get pulled back
Yeah.
to the influences of your youth. And I remember my brother once saying to me, you're not fun anymore.
You're like, what?
I'm like, well, just because I'm not drinking the
Oh,
way
okay.
I
There
did
it
in
is. That's
college.
what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could be fun
There's,
without alcohol. You got like, and I'm not cutting on anyone who's doing whatever you're doing out there. I don't care. Like, are you being a good person? Are you being kind? Okay? Those are more important to me than if you're drinking alcohol, smoking pot, whatever you're doing. I don't care. Like, that's your business.
yeah,
It's your path. I'm not here to judge it. But if it's something
yeah.
that's going to interfere with me and my path and my life, all right, then I have to make decisions if you're a part of my life or not, right? We get to make that decision.
Well, and I mean, I'm not gonna, lie that definitely during my transformation process, your friend circle changes too.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of has to, and it doesn't mean anything negatively towards the people who
No.
leave your life. It just means that you are entering another life stage, and so you need different kind of support at
Yeah.
this life stage.
Which brings us right back to this little group you have. That might be a place where you guys can find some of your like-minded people. Because we talk about finding our
Mhm.
tribe during this journey to make it easier. Like-minded people who aren't going to look at you funny when you're talking about this stuff. They're going to be open and you're going to have really good conversations. Yeah. So that these
There's
online groups are really
not,
good for that.
nothing more fun for me than when I start talking to somebody and they know what the liminal stage is. I'm like, oh, we both know.
We have a liminal
That's
stage. I
great.
know. I got to learn more about the liminal stage now that you've been bringing this up. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's, I think it's the least understood, but I think it's also the most potent.
Okay.
Because when we're in the liminal stage, when we're in that space in between, we're closer to what's called the imaginal world than
Okay.
we ever are in any other stage of life.
Oh.
And when you're closer to the imaginal world, well, you're closer to the building blocks. You're closer to the realm of ideas.
So the liminal stage is, you're saying, is like this, the messy in between.
It's the messy middle.
It's the
Yeah.
messy middle.
Yeah.
I feel like we all spend a lot of time there, so we should learn about it.
Yeah.
I think we spend a lot of time there, and so we should probably figure that out. So, guys, Keri has a second book coming. It's going to be really good. It's not pre-released yet, but when you perusing her website, doing a deep dive on Keri here, sign up. There's a spot to subscribe to be updated. And so when the new book, it'll give you a little synopsis of what it's going to be about. And then you'll be on the list to find out when there's more information to be had. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And it is, I mean, in a nutshell, it is everything we're talking about today. It is about the life cycle.
Yes, it's about the next step in all of this, the next life cycle and all of
Mhm.
it. I have one more question just out of my own curiosity. Your logo is this snake. Is that new, or what's the
Mhm.
snake mean to you? Because it is now Year of the
Oh,
Snake. We're in the snake
it
years.
is.
So, but how long
It
have you
is.
had that, and what's this snake mean to you?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question. So, going back to like 2014, I rebranded myself
Hmm.
and I rebranded myself with the Ouroboros, which is the snake eating its own tail, which isn't
Okay.
quite the logo you're talking about. It
Yes.
was a little
I
bit
saw that one
different.
too, though. Yeah.
Yeah, you probably saw it too because I'm kind of in transition. And the reason I picked that logo back in 2014 was because this was shortly after Myanmar. This was shortly after my realization that I am not my identity. I am constantly changing, constantly transforming. And
Okay.
so that logo really fit. And then but yes, so there you can still see that logo in some places because I'm kind of in mid-transition, because earlier this year, I decided I needed an update,
Okay.
and I didn't know exactly what it needed. I wanted to change the color, I wanted to give it a refresh, and I reached out to a logo designer, and I just gave her carte blanche with it.
Yeah.
I said, "Tell me what you think." And so she took my original logo, and now the new logo, it's not the Ouroboros anymore, but now the snake is awake and its head is up. And
Okay, that's on your
I
website
saw
now too,
that.
isn't it? Did you put that on the website
Yes,
already? Okay,
it should
because
be
I
on the
noticed there
website.
was one with where the head was released on its own. But then
Yes,
if you go down
yes,
further, there is still an older one, where it's
yes,
eating itself. Yes.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
so
So
this is
probably
kind of
yes. So
about
I'm
your
still mid transition with all of that. But yeah, and I just loved it. I thought, you know what? It is the year of the snake, as you said. And I love the idea that, you know what, it is time for this snake to wake up.
yeah.
And time for this power to awaken, time for all of our voices
Like a
to
little
be
Kundalini awakening going on, Carrie. You're just coming up the spine
100%.
there. Yeah. Crawling up the spine soon. Yeah. Not eating
Yep.
himself
Yeah.
anymore. Okay. Well, I saw it. I always love to figure out where people got their cool logo ideas from because usually it means
Well, they
something
always
to
mean
someone when they
something.
pick it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't just pick a snake, right? Like
No.
just out of nowhere. Yeah. For your logo. And it's obviously it was
No.
before this year of the snake, but I thought, well, what a cool like transition year for you to change it anyway. Right?
It was.
Everything's
And when it
wakening
all
up
came
and the
up,
new
it
snake and we're
and
here in midlife,
we did a
shedding our
brighter
skin.
color.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shedding our skin, stop eating our own tails. Yep. It's time. Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about, Carrie. I just keep talking sometimes. But okay, so
I love it.
this is what I do. So, okay, so I'm excited about all these things. I'm gonna check all this out because you said it's on YouTube. The 5-day.
Yep.
The challenge.
The
The 5-day challenge
5-day
is on there.
challenge is on
Okay.
YouTube.
So
Yes.
I'm going to put all of the links to everything we've been talking about in the episode. You guys know I always put them down in the links along with Keri's bio if you want to read more about her. And then you can do a deep dive and just link right into her website and everywhere else and figure out all the things she offers and get a hold of this book, you guys, because it feels memoir. It also feels, I don't know, sometimes it feels fiction-y, which is fun to go back and forth.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It gives sort of an interesting twist for a memoir self-help book, but it like has a twist to it, right? It's a little bit.
A lot of my inspiration was magical realism.
Yeah.
That's where you're
No,
getting
you
at.
can tell. You
Yeah.
can totally tell.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, this is more than just a memoir. So once you first start reading it, you guys, I'm just going to tell you ahead, like, stick with it because at first you might be like, what's happening? Like, who's she talking about? I don't understand this at all. Stick with it. You're going to figure it out, especially if you're kind of on a spiritual journey. You're going to get these things, you guys. You're going to get like what's, when she's talking in the in-between on the other side before she's getting ready to incarnate back into this life and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So, and all her feelings.
Well, and they might even be inspired to come up with a name for their soul like I did.
Yeah.
Which was really fun.
Because some people know the names of their spirit guides and stuff. Some people don't,
Yeah.
And sometimes they do you feel like they don't really care if we give them a name? But we like giving names, so we give names.
I think names matter. Yes. I think so.
Yeah. Let's talk about, I name everything. Like I name my sourdough starters, Keri. So I have
Oh, I love that.
names for I have names for wild animals that are in my yard. I name things. Okay. Well, do you have any final parting words you want all of our people to know? Any little small shifts we should be start right today?
I would just like to say that if someone is interested in the course and they're not sure,
Mhm.
or if they're interested in any of my work, I have on that course page on my website a chance to just get on a 30-minute call with me and just chat.
Okay,
And
yeah.
I'd love to just chat with people and see if it's the right place.
See if you're a fit. Yeah, see where they're at in their life. They can get a vibe of, because it's sometimes different when you have a conversation with someone, then you're able to read their vibe better and know, okay, this person's for me or like they're not or whatever. And you guys don't be nervous because sometimes people get nervous about those calls because they're like, okay, if it's a no, how do I end it? If it's a yes, what I mean? Like, I
There's no pressure.
It gets a little nerve-wracking. You just say like, okay, Keri, I'll be in touch. Like, whatever, you guys, it's fine. No, because everyone's not for everyone. We all know that. That's why I like to present lots of people to my audience so they can just start feeling how it feels in their body and who's right for them. That's my thought. Anyway.
Well, and I love that you do this.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
This is my thought. Like, someone's going to fit with everybody. We all need help. Let's find it. Yeah. All right. Exactly. Well, thank you, Keri. I appreciate it so much. So you guys get out and read the book. Check her site out. All the links to the free things. We love free little things, right? Little crisis guide. We all need a crisis guide. Are you kidding me? Yeah. So especially right now, I feel like there's a new crisis daily. Yeah. Good. All right. Thank you so much.
Yes.
See you later.
Thank you.
Listen, I know your time is valuable. And right now, I'm feeling super grateful and totally humbled that you chose to hang out with me today. If this podcast resonates with you, could you do me a solid and hit that subscribe or follow button? That's going to help you out because you're never going to miss an episode. And it helps me out because you're never going to miss an episode. And if you have like 30 seconds more, could you leave a 5-star rating and maybe leave a kick-ass review? Thank you so much, and I can't wait to continue our journey on the next episode. Oh, and I can't forget the fine print. You know, the legal jargon. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We're just two friends on this journey together, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or any other qualified professional. You get it. See you next time.